Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're thinking about something really fundamental. How do we actually understand the world around us?
Yeah, I mean, how do we know what's a fact,
Yeah.
what's just someone's take on it, and what actually makes people pick?
It's a huge question, and it shapes pretty much everything, doesn't it? How we solve problems, how we build societies.
Absolutely. It
Yeah.
dictates our whole approach.
And that's what we're digging into today. The whole world of positivism and maybe more interestingly, its critics.
Right. This isn't just dusty old philosophy.
Yeah.
It's really about how we know things, especially about society.
Exactly. We'll look at the strengths of that scientific evidence-based approach, sticking to the facts.
But then, and it's where it gets really fascinating, we'll push against its limits.
Especially when you try to understand us, humans, in all our complexity.
Right. Our sources for this are pretty varied. We've got stuff from a Reddit thread on sociology, which is always interesting, an academic article on something called prophetic law, some key bits from Ludwig von Mises' theory in history,
Mises. Okay.
a study on positivism in modern science, and another piece called Why Progress Needs Futurism. So, quite a mix.
Okay, so our mission here is to pull out the main ideas, what positivism is, why people critique it, and what it all means for, well, social science, law, even how we think about progress.
Yeah, unpacking why these different ways of knowing even came about.
So, starting off, what's the first thing that jumps out to you?
Well, I think it's that deep desire for certainty. Positivism really taps into that.
How so?
It basically champions hard evidence, observation, things you can measure, quantifiable data. That's the path to, real knowledge.
Okay, so looking for things you can actually see and verify. Factual realities.
Precisely. And the name itself, positivism, comes from words meaning like
Huh.
defined, concrete, solid.
Right, like that old saying, experience is the source of knowledge.
Exactly. It's heavily based on inductive logic. See lots of specific things, then build a general rule.
And historically, wasn't it Auguste Comte who kind of laid out stages for this?
Yeah, Comte. He had this idea of 3 stages of human thought. First, theological, explaining things with gods or spirits.
Okay.
Then, metaphysical, using abstract concepts, like nature with a capital N or inherent causes.
And the final stage.
The positive stage. That's where we are, supposedly, or where we should be. Just sticking to empirical facts, what we can observe and measure, nothing more.
And the big promise there was exactness, certainty.
Definitely. The belief was, and often still is, that scientific studies can be quantified. You can use formulas, almost like physics, to guarantee the evidence.
Which you can see influencing ideas about law, too, right? This sort of scientism, this drive for objectivity.
Absolutely. And that promise still holds a lot of weight today. Positivism is still, a bedrock for a lot of scientific research.
Especially with technology.
Yeah, developing new tech, fostering collaboration between different fields. That empirical approach is vital for testing hypotheses, testing models before you roll them out.
Like figuring out which features on a phone app actually work based on user data?
Exactly. That's quantitative analysis, straight out of the positivist playbook. And it helps tackle big social issues too, public health, climate change, by aiming for evidence-based solutions.
It's undeniably powerful for understanding the material world, the observable stuff.
But, and it's a big but, what happens when that stuff is us, human beings?
Ah, okay. This is where the critiques start coming in. The anti-positivist angle.
Precisely. Because applying purely scientific methods to people gets complicated really fast.
And Max Weber was a key voice here, wasn't he? Talking about the human problem.
He was. His core argument was that explaining why people do things, their motivation, is, well, empirically unanswerable.
Why? Because you can't see inside their head.
Basically, yeah. As he famously said, there is no instrument to read someone else's mind.
Yeah.
You can observe behavior, sure, but the meaning behind it, that's different.
So what was Weber's alternative? Just give up on understanding motivation?
Not at all. He suggested we need a different approach. We should try to understand the world from their perspective, put ourselves in their social mindsets.
So more qualitative case studies, understanding context.
Exactly. He acknowledged bias is inevitable, but we should strive to reduce it. And through collective effort, critically examining each other's interpretations, we get closer to a richer understanding over time.
This opens up that whole huge idea that maybe there isn't one single objective truth.
Right. The idea that truth is subjective and multiple, and it depends heavily on context, on time and place.
That's a massive shift from the positivist goal.
Huge. And you see thinkers like the postmodernists, Lyotard, Barthes, Baudrillard, taking it even further.
How so?
They argued that what we often call objectivity is actually Well, it's determined by our shared agreement on certain stories, certain narratives.
So science itself is just one of those agreed-upon narratives.
From their perspective, yes, a very powerful and useful one, but still a narrative shaped by consensus, not necessarily a direct line to ultimate reality.
Even Wittgenstein, who started out quite positivist,
Right, with the Tractatus.
he later shifted, didn't he? Recognizing how subjective language itself is in his philosophical investigations.
He did. If our main tool for describing reality, language, is inherently subjective, how truly objective can our knowledge be? It's a profound point.
Now, some people might say, doesn't this just paralyze inquiry? If there's no objective truth, what are we even looking for?
That's a common criticism.
Yeah.
But the counter-argument from the sources is that what we perceive as objective reality is often just a mirage of consensus.
A mirage of consensus.
Yeah, we can't directly change some abstract objective reality, but we can change the subjective consensus, the shared understanding. And that's where human problems and solutions actually live, isn't it?
Okay, so if human experience is so subjective, what about Mises? You mentioned him earlier. How does he fit in when we try to apply science to people?
Mises comes at it from a different angle, focusing on action. His central point is that human action is purposive, meaning people act consciously towards chosen goals, chosen ends. It's not random, it's intentional. And for Mises, this isn't just a theory, it's something we know absolutely and apodictically. It's undeniable.
Okay, so purpose is key. How does that contrast with a purely observational approach?
He gives this great example. Imagine a behaviorist watching people in Grand Central Station. They just see bodies rushing back and forth aimlessly.
It's movement.
Right. But Mises says the true student of human action understands the purpose. These people are commuting, meeting someone, catching a train. There's intent behind the movement.
And this focus on purpose has big implications for using, say, statistics in history or social science.
Huge implications. Mises argues that applying stats wholesale to history is often misleading.
Why is that? Because history doesn't repeat exactly.
Precisely. Each historical event is a complex, unique resultant of many causal factors. Unlike in physics, Mises says, there are no behavior constants in human action. People learn, they change their minds, their values shift.
So you can't just average past events and expect to predict the future reliably. Human purpose throws a wrench in the works.
It's the ultimate variable. The past isn't a perfect guide, like it might be for, say, predicting planetary orbits.
What about materialism? The idea that thoughts are just brain chemistry, like the secretion analogy.
Yeah, the idea that thought is to the brain like gall to the liver or urine to the kidneys. Mises tackles this head-on.
And his argument.
He says it completely fails to explain the sheer variety of human ideas. If thought is just a secretion, why do people have such different beliefs, different political views, different philosophies?
Good point. And how do new ideas, innovations even emerge? They aren't just automatic biological processes.
Exactly. Ideas are creations reflecting individual minds and purposes, not just physiological outputs.
This seems like a powerful critique of Marxian materialism, too. Marx tried to link societal change directly to technology, the material productive forces.
Right, blending Hegel's ideas about clashing forces with a material base. But Mises points out several flaws. Well, first, invention itself, creating new technology that's a mental act, an idea.
Okay.
Second, you need capital, resources, and a certain social structure before you can even implement widespread new technology. The tech doesn't just appear and magically create the structure.
And third,
Perhaps the most ironic point of it, the proponents of socialism, Marx and Engels themselves, were from the bourgeoisie, not the proletariat whose consciousness was supposedly determined by their material conditions. Their ideas didn't spring automatically from their class position.
Mises also talked about the ideology doctrine, right? How Marxists might dismiss opposing ideas.
Yes, the tactic of saying, oh, you only believe that because it serves your class interests. It shuts down debate.
And Mises poses that really interesting question. Can a false theory actually serve someone's interests better than a correct one in the long run?
His answer is basically no. Pragmatically, truth tends to work better than falsehood. A false theory might offer short-term comfort, maybe, but it leads to failure eventually.
Okay, so we have these deep challenges to applying simple positivism to human action and motivation. How does this philosophical debate play out in something really concrete like law?
That's a great transition, because you see a very similar tension in legal philosophy, particularly with legal positivism.
Which emphasizes what exactly?
Concrete, written laws, The law as it is, not necessarily as it ought to be.
Like John Austin's idea, the command theory.
Exactly. For Austin, law is basically an order from the sovereign, the ruling power. And crucially, it's explicitly separated from morals.
So it doesn't matter if the law is fair or just, only that it's the command of the authority. Focus on the form.
That's the core idea of his approach. Law as it is, separate from law as it ought to be.
And then Hans Kelsen took it even further.
He did, with his pure theory of law. He wanted to completely cleanse legal science from non-legal factors. Morality, politics, economics, sociology, just pure law.
Aiming for total objectivity, total certainty within the legal system itself.
Right, a self-contained logical system.
But what's the critique of that? It sounds logical, in a way.
The main critique, echoed in our sources, is that this approach has taken the law away from the values of religious morality, or perhaps broader human values.
Leading to.
Contributing, arguably, to a collapse of public trust in legal institutions. If law feels completely disconnected from people's sense of justice or fairness, does it lose its legitimacy?
That's a powerful question. Does it stop feeling like justice and just feel like rules?
Exactly. And this is where the concept of prophetic law comes in, presented as an antithesis to that strict legal positivism.
Prophetic law. What does that entail?
It fundamentally asserts that law is not only a human affair, but as an embodiment of divine values, or at least deeply held moral values. It's about bringing morality explicitly back into the legal picture.
Okay, and how does it propose to do that? What are its core ideas?
It seems to rest on three main pillars. First, humanitarian law. Law that aims to humanize people, let them reach their potential. This fosters order, peace, and different kinds of justice: distributive, commutative, indicative, protective, and overall welfare.
Okay, so focusing on human flourishing, what's the second pillar?
Emancipatory law. This focuses on liberating people from oppression, structural domination, poverty, promoting free expression as essential for true peace and justice.
So liberation and freedom. And the third?
Transcendental law. This is perhaps the most distinct from positivism. It reestablishes revelation or deep spiritual or moral insight as a valid source of knowledge for law.
Wow, okay. So bridging law directly with religious or transcendental values.
Yes, trying to reconcile individual needs with collective harmony based on these deeper values. It's really a fundamental challenge. Can law be truly just if it ignores these dimensions?
And is this just theoretical, or are there examples?
Well, the source points to the Indonesian Pancasila state of law as an example. Yeah, it integrates principles like divinity, humanity, national unity, democracy, and social justice directly into its legal foundations. It's an attempt to adapt law to the national spirit, incorporating values rather than just importing a purely Western, perhaps more positivist model.
Interesting. So it's trying to balance legal certainty with deeper cultural and moral commitments.
Exactly.
All right, so we've journeyed through positivism's promise of certainty, the deep critiques arising from human subjectivity and purpose, and how this plays out in law. Where does that leave us? Is positivism just wrong?
Oh, definitely not wrong, or at least not useless. Despite all the valid criticisms, positivism is still vital. That emphasis on empirical data, on observation, it's absolutely crucial.
For what, specifically?
For generating valid and applicable knowledge, especially in science and technology. Driving innovation, enabling that interdisciplinary collaboration we mentioned, you need reliable data.
So it's not about throwing it out, but maybe integrating it.
Exactly. The way forward seems to be about integration. Combining the strengths of positivism with other approaches like constructivism, which acknowledges we build our understanding, or interpretivism, which focuses on meaning.
To get a more complete picture.
Yes, to create more comprehensive research methods that can handle the complexities, especially of social problems, acknowledging both the hard data and the human experience.
Okay, so we need multiple lenses. Now, how do we use this richer understanding not just to see the world, but to actively shape a better future? This brings us to that idea of futurism.
Right. If progress isn't automatic, how do we steer it? Futurism is defined here as the systematic study of technological advancement for the purpose of understanding how people will live in the future.
Why is that so important for actual progress?
Because it provides a concrete vision. It moves us beyond just hoping things will get better, that indefinite optimism, towards having actual plans.
Plans need a destination, right?
Exactly. And vague optimism doesn't inspire action like a concrete vision can. If you want progress faster, you need good plans. And good plans need a realistic, compelling picture of what's possible.
And it helps get everyday people on board, too.
Absolutely. Abstract goals are one thing, but specific visions resonate more. Saying tech will cure diseases is okay.
But saying,
Saying mRNA technology could make most cancers easily treatable, or nuclear power could get down to 2 kilowatt-hours, making energy super cheap that gets people excited. It makes progress feel tangible.
it also helps us see where we're failing, doesn't it?
Yes, it can tell us where we are going wrong.
Hmm?
Abstract stats on productivity might be fuzzy for most people.
Oh,
But seeing the Concorde retired, knowing we lost the capability for supersonic passenger flight that makes stagnation undeniable, it forces us to ask why we went backward in that specific area.
that's a really clear example. Now, the sources also mention a caution, though, about futurism.
Yes, a necessary one. It brings up the historical Italian futurists who got carried away and glorified technology, speed, even violence, sometimes at the expense of human values.
So the lesson is,
Progress studies, futurism, these to be ethically grounded. We need to ensure technology serves human well-being and protects individual rights. Tech and industry are tools. Their value comes from how they benefit people. We need to avoid those past mistakes.
so it's about having a vision, but a responsible, human-centered one.
Precisely. We need the rigor of positivism for the facts, the nuance of anti-positivism for understanding purpose and meaning, and the vision of futurism to guide us forward ethically.
Okay, let's try and wrap this up. We've covered a lot of ground. We looked at how positivism aimed for certainty through empirical facts.
Right, and how anti-positivist thought, from Weber to Mises to postmodernism, highlighted the complexities of human subjectivity, purpose, and meaning.
We saw how these ideas clash and combine in areas like law, contrasting legal positivism with approaches like prophetic law.
And finally, how integrating different ways of knowing is crucial, and how futurism provides a necessary, concrete vision for guiding progress responsibly.
So the big takeaway seems to be, there's no single magic bullet for knowledge.
Seems like it. Huh? The most valuable insights probably come from appreciating what each approach offers, its strengths and its weaknesses, and finding smart ways to blend them.
So here's a final thought for you, listening in. If truth can be subjective, as we've discussed, and if human goals and values are constantly shifting based on ideas, how do we collectively actually pursue a common good? How do we foster progress if our very ideas of good and progress might differ so much or be seen as just consensus?
That's the challenge, isn't it? If reality is partly what it is, how do we build better agreements?
Something to think about. Given everything we've explored about how we know, what will you choose to look into next?